Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 251. Flattening the Demon Saint's Nest. Body cultivation void layer. I've almost completely comprehended it. Lin Yuan thought to himself. As long as he wished, he could now step into refined void in the body cultivation lineage, becoming the first body cultivation ancient saint in the central divine continent in hundreds of thousands of years. However, Lin Yuan's expression fell into brief contemplation. Unlike returning to the 6th rank, the lineage of body cultivation was new to Lin Yuan. If he broke through to body cultivation refined void, it would be difficult to perfectly conceal his aura as he did when returning to the 6th rank. Lin Yuan's return to the 6th rank emphasized return, having already traversed it once in the main world. Therefore, when he stepped into the 6th rank again in this immortal Tao world, as easy as eating and drinking, even the founding artifact of the sect, the Taihao Immortal Mirror, which monitored all aura in Divine Continent, did not detect Lin Yuan stepping into the 6th rank. But if he were to break through in the body cultivation lineage to refine void, Lin Yuan wasn't confident he could control his own aura, considering he had never walked this path before. I can't break through in cloud mist blessed land. Lin Yuan silently thought to himself. The Dowd Immortal Sect was nearby. This place was under the direct surveillance of the Taihao Immortal Mirror. Any slight anomaly in aura would attract the attention of the Taihao Immortal Mirror, consequently drawing the gaze of the Immortal Sect leader. For hundreds of thousands of years, why hadn't the Dowd Immortal Sect, Blood Demon Sea, Nether Palace, and Demon Saint's Nest dared to invade easily? It was because of the Taihao Immortal Mirror. This immortal founding artifact, when activated on its own, could cover central divine continent. If activated by an ancient saint, it could even form an immortal mirror incarnation and descend anywhere in this world. Of course, the farther the distance, the weaker the incarnation of the immortal mirror would be. Where to break through? In front of Lin Yuan, multiple screens of light appeared, showing a map of this world. Lin Yuan's gaze first fell on the area of the Eastern Sea Islands. After years of being presided over by Yang Spirit, White Jade Pavilion had already become the foremost among the 800 subsidiary sects and 3,000 left paths of the East Sea. No. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and then gently shook his head. The East Sea was indeed under the influence of White Jade Pavilion, but it was also a key focus area for the Dowd Immortal Sect, Blood Demon Sea, and Ghost Palace of Netherworld. Especially as the influence of White Jade Pavilion had grown over the years, the Dowd Immortal Sect had particularly increased their scrutiny here. Choosing to break through in the East Sea was not a good idea, as the immortal mirror incarnation of the Immortal Sect Master might descend at any time, making it unnecessary to take such a risk. Apart from the East Sea, Lin Yuan could only choose the north, south, or west. In fact, there was almost no difference between these three places. Although they were constantly ravaged and suppressed by the Dowd Immortal Sect, the greater the suppression, the safer it was, as it was darkest under the lamp. Let's choose the west. Lin Yuan made up his mind. To the west was the domain of the barbaric demon beasts. The Demon Saint's Nest was the holy land of the barbaric demon beasts, guarded by a demon saint whose power paralleled the ancient saint of refined void layer. And the barbaric demon saint Nest was under the purview of Jun Wuji's father, Jun Dongjin, who was responsible for the suppression and sweeping of the area. Over the years, Lin Yuan had roughly figured out the deployment and routine of the Immortal Sect disciples suppressing the barbaric demon beasts. With this knowledge, Lin Yuan could definitely achieve his breakthrough unnoticed and undisturbed by external forces. Even if some breakthrough anomalies occurred during the process, they would be hard to detect for a while, and by the time they attracted the attention of other powerhouses, Lin Yuan would have already left. Having determined the location for his breakthrough, Lin Yuan walked out of the cultivation chamber. "My lord!" Chunhua and Shuyue greeted him warmly. Lin Yuan nodded. Several days later, Lin Yuan instructed Chunhua and Shuyue, "I plan to go into closed-door cultivation soon. Turn away anyone looking for me, including big brother, second sister, father, and mother." "Yes." Chunhua and Shuyue immediately responded. This was not the first time such an event had occurred. Ever since Jun Wuji moved into Cloud Mist Blessed Land decades ago, he had begun to cultivate frenziedly, spending most of the time in closed-door cultivation. And during this period, no one could disturb him. After instructing Chunhua and Shuyue, Lin Yuan once again entered the cultivation chamber. Time to leave. Lin Yuan stood inside the chamber, leaving behind a trail of his own scent. This scent could replace him, being sensed by the outside world's Chunhua and Shuyue. At the same time, if anyone broke into this cultivation chamber, no matter how far Lin Yuan was, as long as he was within this realm, he would be able to sense it. After completing all this, Lin Yuan silently left Cloud Mist Blessed Land. This was the second time Lin Yuan had left Cloud Mist Blessed Land since he moved in. The first time was during the grand ceremony of the immortal sect leader's grandfather in the Hollow Void. On the edge of Central Divine Continent, in an ordinary valley, at some point a figure appeared. "This place is quite good." Lin Yuan looked at the valley and nodded slightly. This valley was not within the jurisdiction of Central Divine Continent. Nor was it in the domain of the barbaric demon beasts, but was in a buffer zone between the two. Here, the Taihao Immortal Mirror of the Dowd Immortal Sect could not monitor on its own unless the Immortal Sect leader actively stimulated it, specifically sensing this location. But it was very unlikely for the Immortal Sect leader to do so without any reason. The reason why the Immortal Sect leader had previously activated the Taihao Immortal Mirror and descended into the East Sea was because Lin Yuan had interfered with the Black Gauze Archipelago and disrupted the sect's arrangements. This is it. Lin Yuan arrived at the valley and sat cross-legged in a cave. Sigh. An ethereal figure walked out from inside Lin Yuan. It was the Yin Spirit. This breakthrough was a physical one, so the Yin Spirit and Yang Spirit were free to protect Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan had broken through to the 6th rank, the power of the Yin Spirit and Yang Spirit had also risen significantly. Even though they were slightly weaker than their original form, they still possessed the combat power of an ancient saint of refined void layer. With an ancient saint protecting his cultivation, Lin Yuan's breakthrough, especially in such a buffer zone, wouldn't matter. He would have ample time to handle any situation that arose. Chapter 252. Even if we retreat 10,000 steps. During the breakthrough, the immortal sect leader holding the founding artifact of the sect might come to kill. The Yin Spirit can also take Lin Yuan's true self away. It's merely a matter of failing the breakthrough. For Lin Yuan, there are plenty of ways to compensate. It's not considered a significant loss. Begin. Lin Yuan closed his eyes. Inside his body, the vast vital blood slowly began to boil. East Sea. Bayou Island. At the moment Lin Yuan was breaking through, the Yang Spirit opened his eyes, looking in the direction where Lin Yuan was. "I hope nothing goes wrong," Lin Yuanyang thought to himself, yet he ceased his seclusion, constantly paying attention to any disturbance during Lin Yuan's breakthrough. If some extreme situation did occur, one where an ancient saint-level powerhouse came to kill, the Yang Spirit avatar could rapidly disperse at a crucial moment, then reconvene within the Yin Spirit's body. In other words, appearing beside Lin Yuan out of thin air, covering an infinite distance. The Yang God and Yin God are inherently two sides of the same entity. After the Yang God disperses, the Yin Spirit, at great cost, can quickly give birth to the power of Taiyang, and in turn, form the Yang God. When the Yin Spirit and Yang Spirit merge, they transform into the Taiji Primordial Spirit, whose combat power is by no means weaker than Lin Yuan's true self. Of course, such a technique would cause certain wear and tear on the Yang Spirit and Yin Spirit, but as long as it ensures the smooth breakthrough of the true self, it is worth some sacrifice. On the other side of the tense buffer zone between Central Divine Continent and the barbaric demon beast forces, Jun Xiaoyao and Jun Zhilan stood in the void, commanding a large number of immortal sect disciples, slaughtering the barbaric demon beasts. It was at this time, Jun Xiaoyao's expression changed slightly. He reached out for a disc-shaped magical artifact. At this moment, its needle was trembling incessantly. This disc artifact was named Demon Sensing Disc. It could sense the movements, numbers, and strengths of demonic beasts within tens of thousands of miles. And just at that moment, the demon sensing disc was vibrating continuously. It must be the esteemed firstborn prince from the demon saint's nest who has awakened, Jun Xiaoyao said solemnly. The firstborn prince? Jun Zhilan's expression darkened. The demon saint's nest is a holy land for the barbaric demon beasts, where demon saints on par with ancient saints lie dormant. If not for the demon saint's nest, the barbaric demon beasts would have long been annihilated by the Dowd immortal sect. How could they still exist until now? And the firstborn prince is the premier progeny of that demon saint within the nest. The strength of the firstborn prince could be said to be the strongest below the ancient saints, and with his demon saint bloodline, could even burst forth with true ancient saint-level combat power for a short period. If that's the case, have all disciples temporarily retreat to the divine continent.
Jun Xilan commented.
The barbaric demon beast's firstborn prince was too terrifying. The Dowd immortal sect indeed had the means to counter him, but there was no need. The firstborn prince had a special bloodline, spending most of his time in slumber, only occasionally waking up to wander around. It can be said that as long as the Dowd immortal sect avoids the time when the firstborn prince is awake, they need not face such a terrifying opponent. Very well.
Jun Xiaoyao nodded.
He immediately issued the order. Countless Dowd immortal sect disciples, who were slaughtering demonic beasts, stopped promptly and headed back to the boundaries of Central Divine Continent. Meanwhile, deep in the barbarian wilderness, a terrifying presence was stirring back to life. Countless demonic beasts, whether great demons or demon kings, were all trembling in fear, lying prostrate on the ground, daring not to move. Boom, boom, boom. 1,000 zhang tall figure could be seen slowly approaching, with each step causing the earth to quake and the old aura of the barbarian wilderness hitting one's face. Upon closer inspection, this 1,000 zhang tall figure was, astonishingly, a giant ape. What exactly is the concept of 1,000 zhang? Converted into meters, that's 3,000 to 4,000 meters, majestic and towering. Finally awake again. Mother really insists on making me practice that kind of demonic technique. Out of 100 years, I have to sleep for 90. The 1,000 zhang giant ape strode along, paying no mind to the countless demonic beasts it trampled to death. For it, those beasts were no different from ants. Who would care about stepping on a few ants? What fresh air! It's a pity I can only enjoy it for 10 years. The 1,000 zhang giant ape sighed. In 10 years it would have to continue its slumber, until it woke up again 100 years later. Boom, boom, boom. The 1,000 zhang giant ape continued on its way. It quickly left the area of the barbarian wilderness and arrived at the border region facing the Central Divine Continent. Humph! Those disciples of the immortal sect are quite clever, all having run off without a trace. The 1,000 zhang giant ape glanced in the direction of the Central Divine Continent, not intending to invade. Although it had slept for nearly 100 years, the giant ape's mind was somewhat slow to react, but it wasn't dumb. Entering the Central Divine Continent would be akin to exposing itself under the Taihao Immortal Mirror, constantly vulnerable to an attack from the immortal sect leader from afar. I'll just stroll around here. The 1,000 zhang giant ape decided to limber up its limbs. Just then, the giant ape seemed to sense something and sniffed with its nose. This aura! The eyes of the 1,000 zhang giant ape lit up. It faintly sensed a vast amount of nature's spiritual energy converging towards a certain location. Is it the appearance of a heaven and earth spirit root? Or is it the ripening of a great herb of this world? The giant ape's huge mouth cracked open. Mine, it's all mine. The thousand-jong giant ape immediately strode towards the direction it had sensed. In a valley, Lin Yuan opened his eyes. Virtual body refinement. Feeling the huge surge of vital energy within his body, Lin Yuan's spirits were lifted. Physical body divine ability. Lin Yuan could already feel that deep within his bloodlines, a certain aura had been nurtured to completion, ready to take form at any moment. Just as Lin Yuan was about to check exactly which physical body divine ability it was, suddenly, a thunderous rumbling came from the earth. The next moment, Lin Yuan left the cave. He came up to the top of the valley. What's that? Lin Yuan looked off into the distance. Chapter 253. A giant ape, 1,000 zhang tall, was madly rushing in this direction. The great prince of the demon saint's nest? Lin Yuan immediately recognized the other party. After all, this demon was extremely famous, known to be a match for the ancient saint of refinement Void, and when it burst forth, it even possessed combat power at the level of an ancient saint. Boom, boom, boom. The 1,000 zhang giant ape took huge strides forward. Where is my heaven and earth spirit root? Where is my great medicine of this world? The 1,000 zhang giant ape stopped in its tracks, looking around. With its enormous size, it paid no attention to the valley beneath its feet. To the giant ape, what they called a valley was nothing but a small mound. Ha! Did you steal my heaven and earth spirit root and the great medicine of this world? The 1,000 zhang giant ape scrutinized carefully and soon spotted a figure as tiny as a speck of dust. In the distance, several demonic beasts cautiously observed the 1,000 zhang giant ape. The great prince seems to be in a good mood, a wolf demon muttered under its breath. He too was a demon king of the Mahayana phase, but in front of the 1,000 zhang giant ape, he was no different from those great demons of the nascent soul stage. Some of the human race didn't leave? A demon king next to him seemed to have discovered something and looked towards the minute human figure on top of the valley beneath the giant ape's feet. He probably didn't notice. Too bad. He's going to die under the great prince's feet. The third demon king said quietly, his tone revealing schadenfreude. On his way here, the great prince had crushed countless demonic beasts. Now, stepping on a human, they only felt much more balanced. This human, facing the great prince, is still not running. He might have some strength. Another demon king couldn't help but say, "Humph! What can a bit of strength do?" In front of the great prince, if you're not an ancient saint, you're all just ants. The wolf demon that started the conversation sneered. The great prince of the demon saint's nest represented the strongest combat power just below the demon saint. That's true. The other demonic beasts nodded one after another. There is no spirit root or great medicine here. Lin Yuan stood at the top of the valley and said calmly, "Liar! I clearly felt the aura of the spirit root and great medicine. Was it you who stole my spirit root and great medicine?" The 1,000 zhang giant ape flew into a rage. Its voice buzzed, rolling like thunder. Die! Following that, the 1,000 zhang giant ape lifted its right foot and stomped towards Lin Yuan and the valley, intent on crushing them into dust. In the distance, several demonic beasts, witnessing this, looked at Lin Yuan as if they were looking at a dead man. More accurately, none of the demonic beasts' gazes lingered on Lin Yuan, for in the next moment, he would die under the great prince's foot. The great prince's stomp leverages the power of heaven and earth, touches upon the mysteries of space, and even if one had the fastest speed, they couldn't dodge, only endure. Endure the stomp of the great prince? That's not something a human divinity transformation stage heaven lord could do. Only an ancient saint's intervention or life-saving measures of an ancient saint's level such as talismans or magical treasures could save one. Otherwise, death is certain, the demonic beasts quickly discussed. Their gazes were also observing the great prince's stomp, seeking to learn something from it. However, in the next moment, all the demonic beasts froze. They saw the towering 1,000 zhang giant ape suddenly stumble and, unable to help itself, retreat several steps, shaking the ground, opening several enormous fissures. In the next instant, the 1,000-zhang giant ape was stomped into the ground by someone. Under their incredulous gazes, Lin Yuan, who initially seemed as tiny as a speck of dust, now appeared as a towering giant, stomping the 1,000-zhang giant ape directly underfoot. Another stomp, pinning the trying-to-resist giant ape further into the ground. One more stomp, causing the giant ape to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood as the sound of its bones cracking echoed. It lay bloodied and on the brink of death. If it were before. But Lin Yuan looked down at the giant ape, as if looking at an insignificant ant, and said calmly, "I have already been to the depths of the barbarian wilderness and have flattened the demon saint's nest." Chapter 254, Physical Body Divine Ability, Mu Qingliu's Decision. The 1,000-yard giant ape was strong. This strength was not limited to its physical body. It was more about the mastery of space and other mysterious rules. If someone thought that the 1,000-yard giant ape was just a dumb giant, they were greatly mistaken. He could clash head-on with an ancient saint, the great prince of the barbaric demon beast clan. How could it rely solely on brute force? Unfortunately, the 1,000-yard giant ape encountered Lin Yuan. With the strength of the 1,000-yard giant ape, even if it truly confronted an ancient saint, it had the ability to save its own life. After all, the demon saint's nest was not far away. If the 1,000-yard giant ape could hold out for a while, the demon saint from the demon saint's nest would come to its aid. However, in front of Lin Yuan, who had already stepped into the body cultivation void, the 1,000-yard giant ape did not even last a breath before Lin Yuan trampled it to the brink of death with severe injuries. This was the power of the body cultivation void. In the central divine continent, this was an unprecedented power of the body cultivation line. After stepping into the body cultivation void, Lin Yuan faintly felt that with a single punch or kick, he could suppress the surroundings. One force overcomes all laws. This referred to the body cultivation. Since it's almost dead, might as well. Lin Yuan looked down at the 1,000-yard giant ape, spitting out blood, and suddenly made up his mind. In the distance, several demonic beasts watching in silence fell absolutely quiet, their gaze frozen. What did they see? Their great prince, in front of that seemingly insignificant member of the human race, had no power to fight back. That was the great prince, capable of contending with an ancient saint. How could he be in such a state in front of Lin Yuan? The demonic beasts looked at one another. They instinctively felt, was their great prince too weak? However, in an instant, these demonic beasts realized, how could the great prince be weak? Throughout his journey, the great prince was famously fierce. They knew it by heart. Since it was not the great prince that was weak, then it must be that the human was too strong. Strong enough that even the great prince had no ability to resist. Who exactly is this ancient saint? Aren't they afraid of causing chaos across the world? The hearts of these demonic beasts trembled. If this insignificant human could incapacitate the great prince with just a few kicks, then it meant this person was undoubtedly at the level of an ancient saint. Currently, Dowd Immortal Sect rules the Central Earth, Ghost Palace of Netherworld, Blood Demon Sea, and Demon Saint's Nest each occupy the south, north, and west of the Divine Continent, respectively. But these four major forces abide by an unwritten rule. That is, unless absolutely necessary, the ancient saints at the refined void level need not take action. Even over a decade ago, when Dowd Immortal Sect's arrangement in the East Sea's Black Gauze Archipelago was destroyed, only an incarnation of the mirror descended from the sect master of Dowd Immortal Sect, while the original body still sat in power on Mount Morality Immortal. Look, that person, what is he doing? The demonic beasts had scattered thoughts, their pupils suddenly constricting, because they saw that tiny human race being, heading towards the 1,000-feet-tall ape, opened its mouth to inhale. In an instant, the previously gasping 1,000-feet-tall ape saw its inner vitality and blood energy crazily draining away. In less than a moment, turned into a skeleton. Not bad, not bad. almost equivalent to several dozen near sixth-rank great medicines. A smile emerged on Lin Yuan's face. He had just broken through to the body cultivation void, and although his combat power had surged, his body was weak due to the breakthrough. This 1,000-feet-tall ape came at just the right time, directly serving as the nourishment for Lin Yuan to compensate for his weakness. Just then, accompanied by the complete fall of the 1,000-feet-tall ape, deep within the barbarian wilderness, a tremendous aura began to awaken. That demon saint? Lin Yuan glanced over. It was no secret that a demon saint was stationed at the barbaric demon saint nest. However, this demon saint was mostly in a slumbering state. Let's go. Lin Yuan had no intention of engaging with that demon saint. It wasn't that Lin Yuan couldn't handle the demon saint, but it was simply pointless. Lin Yuan, not yet at the strength to dominate the world, saw retaining the demon saint to restrain the Daoed immortal sect as beneficial, with no need to devastate them entirely. A moment later, a terrifying divine sense descended, transforming into an even more majestic and towering giant ape phantom. Who exactly is it? The giant ape phantom let out a deep roar, looking at the corpse of the prince, raging intensely inside. It had held great expectations for the prince, and if everything had gone smoothly, the prince only needed another 5,000 years to reach the refining void ancient saint layer. At that time, the barbaric demon saint nest would possess 2 demon saints, possibly even tamper with the central divine continent. But now, the prince was dead. All its elaborate plans were shattered. In the short run, among the countless demonic beasts of the barbarian wilderness, not one possessed the potential to ascend to demon saint. The giant ape phantom's gaze shifted towards the distant, trembling demonic beasts. Immediately, it raised its right hand, and those few demonic beasts appeared before it. Soul search. The giant ape phantom's mind slightly stirred. The scenes the several demonic beasts had just witnessed became vividly clear before it. Such strength. Seeing Lin Yuan effortlessly kill the prince with several stomps, the giant ape phantom's expression subtly changed. Involving no intricate rules, merely physical strength, such methods originate from the human race's body cultivation. Could this person possibly be a body cultivator in the refining void period? The giant ape phantom muttered to itself. Body cultivators are inherently proficient in physical combat. Their combat power in the same layer is considered extremely strong. However, for various reasons, they have only been a subsidiary to the immortal path.
Daoed immortal sect.
They nurtured a body cultivator in the refining layer. The giant ape phantom looked displeased. No matter how one puts it, body cultivators are still a part of the immortal path. Now that a refined void body cultivator has emerged, it could only attribute it to the Daoed immortal sect. Chapter 255. Half a day later, a beam of mirror light crossed infinite distances. It descended upon the buffer zone between central divine continent and the barbarian wilderness. The offspring of the demon saint is dead?
Daoist immortal sect master Mu Qinglu frowned.
Sect master at that time. Jun Xiaoyao immediately began to explain. Upon sensing that the great prince of the barbaric demon beasts was about to awaken, Jun Xiaoyao had all the disciples of the numerous immortal sects retreat to the central divine continent for the time being. In addition, Jun Xiaoyao also spied on the movements of the thousand-zhang giant ape from a distance through a secret technique. What he discovered was a terribly shocking scene. A great prince standing 1,000 zhang tall was actually trampled to death by the tiny figure after just a few stomps. Jun Xiaoyao did not see the appearance of that tiny figure, for this person's vitality surged around him, repelling all spells and divine skills. Let me see. The Taoist immortal sect master Mu Qinglu arrived at the scene, and then, with the aid of the light of the Taihao immortal mirror, began to trace back. This was the capability of the Taihao immortal mirror, which could forcibly trace back to a specific period in a region's past. Of course, the traced-back scenes could not involve levels of refined void. Ancient saints were already influencing the surrounding heaven and earth the natural nemesis of such tracing back techniques. Buzz. The scene shifted. The next instant, the scene was filled with boundless vitality. Indeed, it is an ancient saint and furthermore, a body cultivation ancient saint. Taoist immortal sect master Mu Qinglu stayed silent, although the scene did not specifically trace back to anything, but based on Jun Xiaoyao's explanation and the residue aura at the scene, he was already able to deduce many things. A body cultivation ancient saint? Since when did my central divine continent birth such a powerful being? Mu Qinglu thought, frowning. He was unaware whether this body cultivation ancient saint was a friend or a foe to his Taoist immortal sect. But beyond doubt, a body cultivation ancient saint skilled in offensive capabilities could completely alter the balance of power among the current four major forces if he wished to. In the north of Divine Continent, Blood Demon Sea, the ruler of the Blood Demons sat cross-legged on a small island deep within the Blood Demon Sea. Although he was also an ancient saint of refinement void, he had merged with the Blood Demon Sea, thus possessing an ability close to immortality. However, he also gave up his freedom as his true body could not leave the Blood Demon Sea's range. Of course, if willing to pay the price, the ruler of the Blood Demons could also enter the central Divine Continent. That would be by driving the Blood Demon Sea to start expanding. As long as the Blood Demon Sea was vast enough to cover the entire world, the restriction that the ruler of the Blood Demons could not leave the Blood Demon Sea would make no difference. Ha! News from the Demon Saint? The ruler of the Blood Demons raised his eyebrows. In order to jointly resist the Taoist immortal sect, the Demon Saint's nest, the Blood Demon Sea, and the Ghost Palace of Netherworld had always shared intelligence. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. The Taoist immortal sect was too powerful. If they did not join forces, they would only face defeat more quickly. A body cultivation ancient saint has appeared? The ruler of the Blood Demons appeared grave. The limit of the lineage of body cultivation was the divinity transformation stage, which is why it was a vassal to the immortal path, and many cultivators always treated body cultivation techniques as a means to strengthen the body and improve health. Even so, if not relying on external objects at the same level, a body cultivator was seldom much weaker than a cultivator of the same level. In some aspects, they might even be stronger, especially from the divinity transformation stage of the body cultivation lineage. There was an extremely low chance to conceive physical body divine abilities. Body cultivators in the divinity transformation stage had a chance to master physical body divine abilities. Theoretically, body cultivators in the refining void period had an even higher chance of mastering physical body divine abilities. Where did this body cultivation ancient saint come from? Is he the backup of the Taoist immortal sect? The ruler of the Blood Demons desperately wanted to know the identity of this body cultivation ancient saint. If this body cultivation ancient saint really came from the Taoist immortal sect, in the next thousands of years the Blood Demon Sea, the Demon Saint's nest, and the Ghost Palace of Netherworld wouldn't be able to turn the tide and would only be able to hide in their own territories, barely clinging to survival. In the south of Divine Continent, Ghost Palace of Netherworld, a body cultivation ancient saint? The gaunt man sitting on the throne had a bit of a headache. Over the past few decades, too many changes had occurred in the world. First, a master Yuanyang from the East Sea emerged, possessing the strength of a half-step refinement void ancient saint. And now, another body cultivation ancient saint had appeared. As the king of ghost cultivators, how could the gaunt man not know how powerful a body cultivation ancient saint was? Where are all these people coming from? The gaunt man rubbed his brow. Let's not mention that Master Yuanyang from the East Sea for now, with half-step refined void strength. He might be some ascetic master hiding his prowess. But a body cultivation ancient saint? Has such a thing ever emerged throughout history? Shouldn't there be some sort of omen? Like the emergence of a group of body cultivators at the divinity transformation stage first. Then from this group, a body cultivation ancient saint would be born. Only then would it make sense as a gradual progression. Still, I need to investigate this. As to what stance this refinement void ancient saint truly holds. The gaunt man did not believe that this body cultivation ancient saint came from the Taoed immortal sect. If the latter, known for its domineering style, had actually borne a body cultivation ancient saint, they would have announced it impatiently by now. How could there be no news about it until now? Cloud mist blessed land. Lin Yuan appeared silently in the cultivation chamber. No one has noticed. Lin Yuan glanced at the situation in the cloud mist blessed land after leaving for over 10 days. Everything was normal. No one else had come to visit, and Chunhua and Chue had been dutifully standing guard outside. Physical body divine ability. Lin Yuan let out a light breath. He faintly felt the pulsation deep within his bloodline, almost fully formed, ready to break out of its shell at any moment. Exactly what kind of physical body divine ability is it? Lin Yuan looked forward with anticipation, quietly waiting. After half a day, the physical body divine ability completely took shape. In an instant, a deluge of information about physical body divine ability flooded into Lin Yuan's mind. Physical body divine ability, blood rebirth? Lin Yuan's eyes shone brightly. This divine ability could be called omnipotent. Whether it was for saving his own life, or for fighting, it had great utility. According to the introduction of this divine ability, as long as Lin Yuan's physical body had not completely turned into nothingness, and there was at least a drop of his blood remaining, he could quickly be reborn. That was truly terrifying. For someone like Lin Yuan, who possessed a martial Tao primordial spirit and was an evolver, even if his physical body collapsed, the primordial spirit still had the power to fight. But for the vast majority of 6th rank evolvers, without a physical body, although it wouldn't mean death, their soul bodies and spirit body strength would significantly diminish. First, I will comprehend the fundamental essence of this divine ability. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and began to study carefully, relying on his against heaven's understanding. The divine ability, blood rebirth, was indeed good, but it came from the bloodline power of Jun Wuji in this world. That is to say, once the time for Lin Yuan to stay was up and he returned to the main world, even if he became a refined void body cultivator again, the awakened physical body divine ability might not necessarily be blood rebirth. After all, the two bodies were different, and their bloodlines were also different. However, as long as he fully understood the essential principle of the blood rebirth divine ability, no matter where Lin Yuan was, he could use this divine ability. The so-called divine skills, the so-called talents, were nothing more than a complex law or Tao. Once its essence was understood, it could be easily deployed. That was the terrifying aspect of against heaven's understanding. Study all things, and then utilize all things.
Daode immortal sect.
At the highest hall,
Sect Master Mu Qinglu sat expressionless.
I can't wait any longer. Mu Qinglu stood up and muttered to herself. In the buffer zone between Central Earth and the barbarian wilderness, traces of a body cultivation ancient saint had appeared. This made Mu Qinglu somewhat uneasy and also feel a hint of pressure. If this body cultivation ancient saint allied with the Nether Palace, Blood Demon Sea, and Demon Saint's Nest, even though they still wouldn't be able to shake the foundations of the Taoed immortal sect, it would indeed cause great chaos across the land. The Taoed immortal sect urgently needed a second refinement void ancient saint to preside over it now. Originally, Mu Qinglu wanted to observe for a while longer and choose the final successor between Jun Dongjin and Mu Mengting. But now, there was no more time for that. The resources and methods currently possessed by the Taoed immortal sect were only enough to forcibly promote one person to the refining void period. As long as the immortal sect has two ancient saints presiding, even if that body cultivation ancient saint joins forces with those three old fools, it won't make a difference. Mu Qinglu thought to herself. Having two ancient saints presiding over Mount Morality Immortal had an effect that wasn't as simple as 1 + 1 = 2.
Yun Dongin. Mu Mengting.
The names of these two individuals flickered through Mu Qingliu's mind, and she had already made her decision. Chapter 256. Assassination. Strike. Discussing aptitude, it was definitely Jun Dongjin who had the advantage. With a mutated heavenly spiritual root talent, he could easily make it into the top 50 in the history of the Taoist immortal sect, spanning hundreds of thousands of years. And Jun Dongjin was a steady person, should he manage to step into the refining void period. Continuing to maintain the Taoist immortal sect's dominant position in the central divine continent wouldn't be difficult. However, Jun Dongjin was, after all, an outsider. Even if he married a female cultivator from the Mu family, he was still an outsider. If Jun Dongjin became the future sect master of the Taoist immortal sect, he certainly wouldn't allow the Mu family to continue holding sole power, no matter the reasoning. He would suppress the Mu family. That was the instinct of those in power. On the contrary, if Mu Mengting became the next sect master of the Taoist immortal sect, such an event wouldn't occur. After all, Mu Mengting was a cultivator from the Mu family. Mu Qingliu's expression was calm. At his level, whoever became the next immortal sect leader wouldn't make much difference to him. The most important thing was how to maintain the interests of the Mu family. Moreover, Mu Mengting was only inferior to Jun Dongjin. When compared to other members of the Taoist immortal sect, Mu Mengting was already at the peak. With the accumulated heritage of the Taoist immortal sect over hundreds of thousands of years, there would be no problem for Mu Mengting to assume the position of sect master. Dongjin, don't blame me. Blame it on the fact that you are not from the Mu family, Mu Qinglu thought to himself. In fact, if there were a few more decades or centuries, and if Jun Dongjin were to reach the refining void before Mu Mengting, Mu Qinglu would indeed consider cultivating Jun Dongjin as the immortal sect's next generation leader. Unfortunately, time waits for no one. With both of their progress being similar, Mu Qinglu naturally considered his own family first. Since he decided to cultivate Mu Mengting with all his effort, Mu Qinglu naturally began to suppress Jun Dongjin. Otherwise, if Jun Dongjin saw that Mu Mengting was trying to reach the refining void period with the full support of the sect, he would inevitably become mentally unstable. At that time, no matter what actions he took, it would be a loss for the sect. Thus, Mu Qinglu decided to transfer Jun Dongjin out of the Taoist immortal sect ahead of time. With Dongjin's talent, even without the help of the sect, he is still expected to step into the semi-ancient saint level in the future. I'll be the villain and take the initiative to transfer Dongjin's family away. Later on, when Mengting becomes the sect master, we can bring Dongjin back and entrust him with important duties again to win his loyalty. Mu Qinglu thought in his heart. In the world of immortal Tao, individuals wield great power, but controlling a force is not just about having strength. Especially in the Taoist immortal sect, with the looming threats of the Nether Palace, Demon Saint's Nest, and Blood Demon Sea, a sect master at the ancient saint level needs to be constantly stationed on Mount Morality Immortal. At such times, managing the entire central divine continent depends on whether the subordinates are up to the task. And in Mu Qingliu's view, Jun Dongjin was clearly a very qualified subordinate. Even if he couldn't become the immortal sect leader, serving as an elder in charge could save the sect master a lot of trouble. Mount Morality Immortal. Jun Dongjin, Mu Lianer, Jun Xiaoyao, and Jun Zhilan, a family of 4, sat with furrowed brows. What does grandfather mean by sending our whole family to Vast Cliff Mountain? That place is remote, and it doesn't have any important resources. Is there a need for all 4 of us to go? Jun Zhilan was somewhat dissatisfied. She had been living comfortably on Mount Morality Immortal, where the spiritual energy was abundant and the cultivation environment was suitable. As for Vast Cliff Mountain, although it was still within the central divine continent, it naturally fell short compared to Mount Morality Immortal. The sect master must have his considerations. Perhaps Vast Cliff Mountain has some important resource that we don't know about? Jun Xiaoyao always thought about issues from the sect master's perspective. I'll go ask father what exactly is going on. Mu Lianer stood up, planning to see Mu Qinglu. She couldn't understand why, out of the blue, her father suddenly issued such an order to their family. In recent years, Jun Dongjin had carried out the tasks assigned by the sect master quite well, without a single mistake, and there was no need for such orders.
Lian er.
Jun Dongjin hurriedly stopped Mu Liener. Since the sect master has issued the sect order for this matter, it is already set in stone. If you go, you would make the sect master uncomfortable. Jun Dongjin shook his head and said, "It's just as well. I've been busy with various sect affairs in recent decades. Now that I have some free time, it's a good opportunity to rest. I've heard that vast cliff mountain is surrounded by a large number of mortal kingdoms. I'll take you all to have a good look around when we get there." "Dad, you're really optimistic."
Yun Shilan rolled her eyes.
But there was something Jun Dongjin said that was correct. About their family's relocation, it was made via an official sect order by the sect master. There was no longer any room for changes or turning back. Even if they were reluctant, they had no choice but to follow the order. Otherwise, it would be tantamount to betrayal of the immortal sect. "Perhaps Father just wants to temper your temperaments, and he will call you back soon," Mu Liener consoled. Mount Morality Immortal. At the Mu family peak, Mu Mengting and a few trusted subordinates arrived at a secret chamber at the top of the mountain. This was one of the few places in the central divine continent unaffected by the surveillance of the Taihao Immortal Mirror. "Mengting brother, have you heard? That Jun Dongjin is going to be transferred out, and his whole family is going to vast cliff mountain to take charge." A round-faced man spoke in a low voice, his tone betraying a sense of pleasure. Over the years, Mu Mengting and Jun Dongjin had fought openly and covertly countless times for the position of sect master. With Jun Dongjin being a mutated heavenly spiritual root, he was quite well liked within the sect and valued by those supreme elders. Thus, even with the backing of the Mu family, Mu Mengting often found himself at a disadvantage. His subordinates felt the pinch even more than Mu Mengting himself did. Now, hearing that Jun Dongjin's family was about to be transferred, their pleasure was easy to imagine. Chapter 257. If it hadn't been for the sect rules, they would probably have started celebrating outside already. Why does the sect master want to reassign the entire Jun Dongjin family? Mu Mengting was also in a good mood, yet he began to ponder. He didn't know that sect master Mu Qinglu had already planned to choose him as the future sect master, and reassigning Jun Dongjin was also for his sake, and it was for the layout of taking over Jun Dongjin in the future. "I heard that recently, a major event occurred in the barbarian wilderness." The second subordinate spoke up. "The big prince of the demon saint's nest died, apparently at the hands of an ancient saint." "I have heard about that too."
Mu Mengting nodded.
However, exactly how it happened and which ancient saint had acted, no one knew. The sect master must know, but since he didn't say it himself, no one dared to ask. "Mengting brother, whether it has anything to do with this incident or not, none of this is important. Now, there is an unprecedented opportunity. Though Jun Dongjin has been reassigned from the immortal sect, it doesn't mean he won't come back." The third subordinate lowered his voice. "What do you mean?" Mu Mengting's expression changed slightly. "Hee. In the past, Jun Dongjin always had a large number of subordinates with him. But this time, the reassignment order from the sect master specifically instructed only Jun Dongjin's family of 4 to go to Vast Cliff Mountain. If Jun Dongjin's family dies on the journey, it shouldn't be hard, right?" The subordinate's tone was cold. "The Taihao Immortal Realm envelopes the entire central divine continent. Any action by us would be exposed." Mu Mengting shook his head as he said, "The Taihao Immortal Mirror monitors foreign energies. If cultivators from the Blood Demon Sea, Demon Saint's Nest, or Ghost Palace of Netherworld dare to enter the central divine continent, the Immortal Mirror would certainly detect them. But if it's an energy exerted by a former sect master, even if the Immortal Mirror detects it, there won't be any reaction." The subordinate continued speaking. "Are you suggesting I use the symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage left by the predecessors of our immortal sect?" Mu Mengting said. "A talisman is created by using special methods to retain the power of one strike within the corresponding paper. If someone later activates the talisman, it's equivalent to unleashing the power stored inside it. Daoud Immortal Sect has been inherited for hundreds of thousands of years. with each sect master of the refining void period leaving behind some talismans, each preserving their full strike power. All previous refining void period sect masters had once been masters of the Taihao immortal mirror. Their exerted energies were not within the Taihao immortal mirror's alarm range.
No.
It may not be detected at the time, but if the sect master investigates afterward, exposure is inevitable. Mu Mengting still shook his head. If Jun Dongjin were to die, the sect master would surely investigate. With the retrospective ability of the Taihao immortal mirror, his methods couldn't possibly remain hidden. Yes, the sect master would certainly know. But by then, Jun Dongjin would already be dead. In the Daoed immortal sect, only you, Brother Mengting, are capable of succeeding the position of sect master. The subordinate continued speaking. There are many disciples in the Daoed immortal sect, and not lacking in geniuses besides me, there are plenty of disciples who could be chosen for the sect master position. Mu Mengting remained somewhat hesitant. Mengting brother, you underestimate your standing within the sect too much. Unless the immortal sect can once again produce someone with a mutated heavenly spiritual root like Jun Dongjin. Otherwise, within 1,000 years, you are the most suitable candidate for sect master, and there's something I don't know if I should say. Our Daoed immortal sect masters have a tenure of at most 15,000 years, and now sect master Mu is already nearing 12,000 years. Mengting brother, you are also a member of the Mu family, a direct descendant of the sect master. Besides Jun Dongjin, whom else would he cultivate if not you? But if Jun Dongjin lives and comes back, it would be uncertain whose hands the future sect master position would fall into. Hearing his confidant subordinate's suggestion, Mu Mengting's expression fluctuated unpredictably. All right. After a long time, Mu Mengting suddenly stood up, his eyes cold as he spoke. Outside cloud mist blessed land. Jun Dongjin, Mu Liener, and their children Jun Xiaoyao and Jun Zhilan were saying goodbye to Lin Yuan. Little brother, just stay well in cloud mist blessed land. Jun Zhilan said reluctantly. The sect's order only required Jun Dongjin's family of 4 to go to Vast Cliff Mountain. As for Wuji, their perennially reclusive youngest son, he was not included. Perhaps in Mu Qingliu's eyes, Wuji didn't warrant attention. What significance does a golden core stage body cultivator have for the Daoed immortal sect? Moreover, since Wuji had joined the cloud mist blessed land, he had never taken the initiative to enter Mount Morality Immortal, making him an absolutely harmless entity. Be careful on your way. Lin Yuan looked towards Jun Dongjin and Mu Liener and said, "What's there to be careful about? That vast cliff mountain is also under the protection of the Taihao immortal mirror's power within the central divine continent. Those wastrels from the Ghost Palace, Demon Saint's Nest and Blood Demon Sea, could they possibly dare to attack me?" Jun Dongjin said with a smile. Clearly, he was very confident in his sect's founding artifact. Regardless, it's always safe to be cautious, Lin Yuan said. External enemies are not to be feared. The real threat comes from enemies within. For example, there's Mu Mengting. Through years of understanding, Lin Yuan knew that Mu Mengting was the type to hold grudges. It's not that such a personality is bad in a cultivator, but one must always be on guard. Understood. Then we'll take our leave first. Jun Dongjin waved his hand, and then left with Mu Liener, Jun Xiaoyao, and Jun Zhilan. Lin Yuan watched as Jun Dongjin and the others disappeared. He then turned and returned to the cloud mist blessed land. In the cultivation chamber, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. Go, follow them. Lin Yuan thought briefly. The Taiyin primordial spirit emerged from his body, and quickly disappeared from the spot. Vast Cliff Ancient Path. This is the essential path that leads to Vast Cliff Mountain. In the dense forest beside the ancient path, several figures were all stationed there. These figures, with concealed auras, were all Mahayana phase heaven lords. They've arrived. That Jun Dongjin's family is almost here. The figures carefully observed, sensing the aura thousands of miles away. Soon, a jade chariot arrived swiftly, clearly a top-notch flying ship talisman. Later, we won't need to act personally, just jointly activate this talisman, said the leading figure, struggling to pull out a pale golden talisman from his storage bag. This pale golden talisman, even without being activated, emitted an immensely terrifying power. The symbol talisman of the refined void stage. The surrounding figures looked at the talisman with intense interest. This was a foundation of the Dao Immortal sect. If it weren't for Mu Mengting bringing monks from the Mu family, let alone taking out a refined void stage talisman, they wouldn't even get to touch it. As soon as that jade chariot, the leading divinity transformation monarch began to make arrangements. The symbol talisman of the refined void stage, just to activate it, required all these divinity transformation monarchs to join forces. Suddenly, at that moment, under the watchful eyes of several divinity transformation monarchs, the pale golden symbol talisman of the refined void stage, as if stimulated, suddenly activated itself. Hum! The symbol talisman of the refined void stage exploded. It formed an illusory defensive barrier. But the next moment, the defensive barrier shattered. From the talisman's self-activation to the explosion of the formed barrier, everything happened in the blink of an eye. Even for divinity transformation monarchs, they were somewhat dumbfounded at that moment. What just happened? This, the leading divinity transformation stage cultivator, as if he realized something, his face showed a look of terror. The symbol talisman of the refined void stage. Generally, there are two ways to use it. One is active activation, which is offensive. The other is passive defense, which activates itself when facing an irresistible threat, forming a defensive barrier. This method, even when facing an attack from an ancient saint of the same level, could withstand for a moment. However, just now, the defensive barrier formed by the symbol talisman of the refined void stage lasted only a moment. The leading divinity transformation monarch trembled. He instinctively looked towards the sky. Between heaven and earth, an ancient and vast breath had emerged at some unknown time, overshadowing the sun and the sky. This divinity transformation monarch could vaguely see that above the vault of heaven, under that bright moon, a figure emitting yin energy almost merging with the moon appeared. This figure, though under the bright moon, seemed to encompass the entire moon. He had his left hand behind his back and his right hand stretched downward, as if to crush a few ants, but seemed to be momentarily halted by some obstruction. Chapter 258 Ancient Saint of Refinement Void, merely SOSO. The bright moon hung high. The power of Tai-Yin permeated the air. Lin Yuan looked down, gazing at those Mahayana phase heaven lords with weak knees. Following behind Jun Dongjin and the others, the Tai-Yin primordial spirit's perception was vast. It detected an ambush from tens of thousands of miles away. Thus, he arrived ahead of time, planning to crush them with ease. It was just that the power of the symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage was still within Lin Yuan's expectations. Could it really block his attack for a moment? The immortal cultivation system does have its unique advantages. Thoughts churned through Lin Yuan's mind, such as the talismanic path that could preserve the power of an ancient saint of refinement void almost perfectly intact. The mysteries involved left Lin Yuan somewhat astounded. Boom! At that moment, in the center of the central divine continent,
A terrifying aura suddenly erupted.
a light that emitted immeasurable brightness and immeasurable catastrophes descended in an instant, and a mirror light incarnation condensed. Then it directly delivered a strike towards Lin Yuan. This strike subtly caused the surrounding space to stiffen, its fearsome power sweeping across every inch of air. A common divinity transformation stage heaven lord, or even the great prince of the barbaric demon Saint Nest if resurrected, would risk perishing directly if they dared to resist this attack outright, its might suggesting it was close to the pinnacle of hollow void realm of the ethereal refinement stage. Tai Hao Immortal Mirror? Troublesome. Lin Yuan's brows knitted slightly. He had been very careful just now to contain his power, yet he was still detected by the Tai Hao Immortal Mirror, which descended directly. However, it might not be the Tai Hao Immortal Mirror sensing Lin Yuan's intervention. Perhaps it was the shattering of that symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage that caused the Taihao immortal realm to sense something. Rustling. Lin Yuan retreated a step. With his sleeves fluttering, he nonchalantly blocked the strike that almost reached the pinnacle of the hollow void realm of the ethereal refinement stage. Invisible shocks spread out in all directions, and had the clash of powers between these two ancient saints not been intentionally contained, thousands of miles of the land would already have begun to crack. Thousands of miles away, Jun Dongjin and the others, riding a jade chariot treasure, approached slightly and immediately detected the clash of ancient saint powers. Are two ancient saints fighting? One of them is the sect master. But who is the other? Jun Dongjin was greatly surprised. There were only a handful of refinement void ancient saints in the world, each with a distinguished reputation. Where is it? Jun Dongjin looked up at the sky and saw two figures confronting each other. The one on the left, surrounded by immortal light, was none other than the mirror incarnation of the immortal sect leader, Mu Qinglu. The figure on the right, with fluttering sleeves and blurred face, stood under the bright moon, their presence as vast as the moon itself. The power of Tai Yin. Could it be the ghost cultivator king from the Nether Palace? Jun Dongjin speculated in his heart. Of all ancient saints, only the ghost cultivator king's aura came closest to this figure. Father, what is that? Jun Jilan seemed to have discovered something and whispered while pointing in a certain direction. Following her gaze, Jun Dongjin saw several divinity transformation stage heaven lords trembling in a hidden corner. These heaven lords were pale-faced and lacked even the courage to flee. Who are they?
Jun Dongjin observed carefully.
In the central divine continent, including the East Sea, the Barbarian Wilderness, the Blood Demon Sea, and the Nether Palace, there were several known strong individuals who had reached the divinity transformation stage. The aura of a symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage. Jun Dongjin's expression turned solemn. He vaguely sensed the aura of a symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage around these terror-stricken divinity transformation stage heaven lords. A symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage. In today's world, only the Dowd immortal sect could make such a thing. It's not that having the strength of the refining void period allows you to leave behind a talisman of that stage. Creating one requires a specific level of talent in talismanic paths, and a certain core material of the talisman is unique to the Dowd immortal sect. That is to say, the faint aura of the symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage that Jun Dongjin sensed could only come from the Dowd immortal sect. This symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage must belong to the 21st generation sect master of the immortal sect, Mu Shoujua. Jun Dongjin thought silently to himself. Each ancient saint was unique, and a symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage bears the full force strike of one such saint. Therefore, just by the aura of the talisman, one could distinguish which ancient saint it was from, especially with the Dowd immortal sect's heritage spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Every sect leader who reached the level of an ancient saint of refinement void was enshrined and worshipped by countless disciples of the sect. The Mu family's symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage. Jun Dongjin's feelings were mixed. The Mu family, as one of the three main veins of the immortal sect, had produced more than one sect leader of the ethereal refinement period. Mu Shoujua, the 21st generation sect master, and Mu Qinglu, the current 30th generation sect master. Both came from the Mu family. Jun Dongjin was no fool. On the Vast Cliff ancient path, a necessary route to Vast Cliff Mountain, several divinity transformation stage heaven lords lay in ambush, holding symbol talismans of the ethereal refinement stage in hand. What do they intend to do? Sect master. Jun Dongjin sighed softly in his heart. He knew these people were definitely not arranged by the sect master. If the sect master wanted to kill him, there was no need for such trouble. Suppression with the Taihao immortal mirror would suffice. There was no point in wasting a symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage. But if it wasn't the sect master's doing, it was done by someone from the Mu family. And it would have been one of the Mu family's high-ranking members, as no one else could have taken a reflecting void symbol talisman that belonged to their ancestor. Does Mu Mengting want to eliminate me root and branch? Jun Dongjin felt somewhat disheartened for a moment. He admitted there was competition between him and Mu Mengting, the two frequently clashing. But that was all out in the open. It's normal for disciples of the immortal sect to have disagreements, but now Mu Mengting was actually making a move to kill. Chapter 259. Beneath the high sky, the immortal sect leader Mu Qinglu, with the aid of the Taihao immortal mirror, descended in a mirror incarnation and gazed solemnly at Lin Yuan. From the brief exchange they just had, Mu Qinglu inferred that the strength of the formidable individual before him was at least at the peak of the hollow void realm. Though his true self hadn't descended, the area was still within the bounds of the central divine continent, enveloped by the might of the Taihao immortal mirror. The avatar descended by the mirror's light would require, at the very least, a cultivator of the refinement void Dongshu layer to withstand. And the fact that Lin Yuan could so effortlessly block that strike indicated that he possessed, at a minimum, the combat power of someone at the peak of the hollow void realm. Who exactly are you? Mu Qinglu scrutinized Lin Yuan, noting the similarity between his aura and that of the ghost cultivator king from the ghost palace of Netherworld. Both were of the power of Taiyin. However, Mu Qinglu keenly sensed a difference. Compared to the ghost cultivator king, the aura emanating from Lin Yuan was much purer, almost as though he was an incarnation of the infinite power of Taiyin itself. Who I am is not important. What's interesting is the overt and covert struggles within your immortal sect. Lin Yuan glanced at the trembling Mahayana phase heaven lords below and the jade carriage artifact that had stopped in the distance. Overt and covert struggles?
Mu Qinglu internally sighed.
The moment he descended, after sensing the presence of the symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage, he had already figured out most of the situation. Mu Qinglu could never have imagined that Mu Mengting had such a small-mindedness. Even though he had sent Jun Dongjin's family to the remote vast cliff mountain, far from the immortal sect's power core, Mu Mengting still harbored such wariness toward Jun Dongjin, daring to strike en route. This is an internal matter of the immortal sect, which should be irrelevant to you, Mu Qinglu said with a composed expression. In truth, he had been keeping tabs on Jun Dongjin's whereabouts all along. Even if Lin Yuan hadn't intervened, the very instant those Mahayana heavenly monarchs activated the symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage, he would have been alerted. For Mu Qinglu, his concern rested with the overall direction of the Daoed immortal sect. Jun Dongjin possessed a talent rarely seen, and even if he couldn't become the sect master, he was someone that could be of significant use and absolutely must not die. In fact, whether one becomes the sect master of the immortal sect is not of utmost importance. As long as one can step into the refined void stage and wield the founding artifact of the sect, one would be invincible in this world. As for the ultimate stages within the refining void period, entering void, hollow void, or refined void, there isn't any fundamental difference. This was also the reason why, despite knowing that Jun Dongjin had higher potential than Mu Mengting, the latter was still chosen. Mu Mengting was also born with a heavenly spiritual root, and with many foundations within the immortal sect like the 9 heavens glazed water and other treasures. There shouldn't be any problem breaking through to the refining void stage. To put it simply, the advantage of talent held by Jun Dongjin was not indispensable. But the advantage that Mu Mengting had, which stemmed from being part of the Mu family, was something Jun Dongjin lacked. If this generation of the Mu family did not have a talented disciple like Mu Mengting, Mu Qinglu, for the future of the immortal sect, would definitely choose to cultivate Jun Dongjin as the next sect master. Daring to meddle in the affairs of my immortal sect, I'd like to see on what grounds you do so. Mu Qinglu raised his right hand, and an illusory image of a mirror appeared. It was the projection of the Taihao immortal mirror, the founding artifact of the sect. Mu Qingliu's true body, together with the genuine Taihao immortal mirror, resided at Mount Morality Immortal, and were not to emerge lightly. However, the avatar reflected by the mirror light and the mirror's projection could descend to any place in this world. Especially within the range of the central divine continent, it could retain the power of the refinement void stage. Boom! In an instant, Mu Qinglu struck once more. To the 9 heavens. Lin Yuan's form vanished, and when he reappeared, he had already traversed tens of thousands of meters to reach the high heavens. Ancient saints of this realm who engage in battle typically take the 9 heavens as their battleground. The space here is more vast, allowing ancient saints to unleash their full power. In the north of the divine continent, the blood demon sea stirred, its blood-red waters rippling gently. On a secluded island deep within, the master of the blood demon's expression subtly changed. Ancient saints clashing in the 9 heavens? The blood demon master looked up, gazing toward a certain direction. A casual blow from an ancient saint can shake the heavens and the earth, let alone a battle between two such beings? Such fluctuations in aura, while perhaps imperceptible to lower-level cultivators, would be unmistakably clear to anyone in the refining void stage, with no detail overlooked. Is it that old fellow Mu Qinglu? It should only be his mirror incarnation, but since the location is within the central divine continent, even if it's just a mirror incarnation, it still possesses the combat power of the peak of the hollow void realm. Which ancient saint would dare to make a move here against Mu Qinglu? The blood demon master was somewhat in disbelief. Normally, no ancient saint would willingly engage Mu Qinglu within the bounds of the central divine continent, because that wouldn't be a normal fight. Mu Qinglu, with the founding artifact of the sect in hand, is invincible in this world, and his combat and killing power surpass the limits of the refining void stage. As for the avatar created from the mirror's light, it might be weaker, but what would be the point in battling with an avatar? Having paid a huge price to win, Mu Qinglu only lost an avatar, which would recover in half an hour with the power of the founding artifact of the sect. If he had lost, then he would have been chased and beaten by the mirror avatar, devoid of any dignity befitting an ancient saint. This aura, the power of Tai-In, is it that old In god? Wasn't the In god quite cowardly before? How come he has such courage this time? The blood demon prime god was surprised. Barbaric demon Saint Nest. The colossal ape demon saint also felt the fluctuations of an ancient saint-level battle. Rare indeed. That old In god, he actually made a move this time? The ape demon saint clicked his tongue in amazement. For beings like them, there wasn't much entertainment, but they would definitely pay attention to a battle at their level. South of Divine Continent. Ghost Palace of Netherworld. A gaunt man sat on the throne. Feeling the fluctuations of an ancient saint-level fight, he fell into contemplation. The gaunt man's eyebrows were tightly furrowed. The aura of the ancient saint battling with Mu Qinglu did indeed somewhat resemble his. But it was just that, similar. Ghost cultivators wield the power of Tai-In, but they also encompass the Yuming death chi. However, that figure was entirely powered by the power of Tai-In, and its power of Tai-In was much purer, to the extent that even a refinement void layer ghost cultivator like the gaunt man couldn't compare. Who exactly is it? The gaunt man immediately contacted the blood demon prime god and the demon saint of the nest, clarifying that he hadn't battled with Mu Qinglu and inquiring about the identity of the battling ancient saint. Cloud mist blessed land. Lin Yuan lay lazily on the top floor of a mountain loft. At the same time, he was paying attention to the movements of the Dowd Immortal sect. Cloud mist blessed land wasn't far from the Dowd Immortal sect, only tens of thousands of miles away, and Lin Yuan's current perceptive abilities could easily cover that distance. Lin Yuan faintly sensed the shifting qi in the Dowd Immortal sect. Mu Qinglu, holding the founding artifact of the sect, wanted to send the true body of the immortal artifact to the 9 heavens, to thoroughly detain that mysterious Tai-In ancient saint. The consciousness synchronized. In the 9 heavens above, Lin Yuan's In god glanced in the direction of the Dowd Immortal sect, repelled Mu Qinglu with one strike. His figure dispersed, turning into wisps of the power of Tai-In, vanishing between heaven and earth. Ran away? Mu Qingluo's expression was ugly. He had been thinking about joining with his true form to deliver a fatal blow to this mysterious ancient saint. The opponent had run away? Is it a coincidence, or? Mu Qingluo's expression was grave as he too disappeared from sight. The battle between Lin Yuan and Mu Qinglu had a significant impact on Central Divine Continent, as well as the Blood Demon Sea, Nether Palace, and Barbarian East Sea. This was an ancient saint-level battle, which might not occur even once in many years. Refining void ancient saints, there were only a few in the entire world, and under the suppression of the Tao Immortal sect, the ancient saints rarely took action. Not to mention that one of the participating ancient saints this time was Mu Qinglu, the sect master of the Tao Immortal sect. East Sea. Bayou Island. The numerous disciples of Bayou Island were also discussing the matter of the ancient saints' battle. Have you heard? In the 9 heavens above Central Divine Continent, there was a battle between ancient saints not long ago. Ancient saints? Refining void ancient saints? Good heavens, even such beings would engage in combat. It's unclear, but one of the refining void ancient saints involved in the battle is the sect master of the Tao Immortal sect, who has already stepped into the hollow void realm. I heard that the piece of 9 heavens where the 2 ancient saints fought, the gang winds tore apart, and the murderous intent belonging to the ancient saints hasn't dissipated even now. Ordinary Mahayana heavenly monarchs don't dare to get close. That's a refining void ancient saint. It's a good thing the battlefield was in the 9 heavens, if it were in Central Divine Continent. TSK. Refining void ancient saints. I wonder when we'll get to see such powerhouses for ourselves. On Bayou Island, many disciples conversed in low voices during their rest, their tones filled with longing. At the core area of Bayou Island, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. The conversations of the disciples on the island naturally couldn't escape his attention. Refining void ancient saints? Lin Yuan slowly stood up, walked outside, and casually sat on a huge rock, glancing in the direction of the Tao Immortal sect in Central Divine Continent, and smiled faintly. Merely so. Chapter 260 Jun Wuji. I know your big secret. It's just that founding artifact of the sect. Lin Yuan had a slightly grave expression. Up to now, Lin Yuan had encountered the Taihao immortal instruments twice. The first time was during the grand ceremony of the ethereal void, where Lin Yuan and his parents went to Mount Morality Immortal to congratulate Mu Qinglu. During that period, Lin Yuan's yang spirit had annihilated the forces of the Black Gauze Archipelago, causing the plans of the Tao Immortal sect to fail, which infuriated Mu Qinglu, who directly activated the Taihao immortal instrument and descended in incarnation upon the Eastern Sea Islands. The second time was not long ago when Lin Yuan, using his Yin God, battled with an incarnation of the mirror light for a while and felt the true power of the Taihao immortal mirror. Through these 2 encounters, Lin Yuan determined that the tier of Taihao immortal realm must surpass the refining void period. That is, above the refining void period, a treasure of the Unity Path stage. The Unity Path stage had already surpassed the limits of this world. Only in the legendary Spirit Realm did such mighty beings exist. Spirit Realm. Lin Yuan's expression sank into brief contemplation. There were rumors that the Tao Immortal sect holds the Ascension platform that leads from this world to the Spirit Realm. Successive Immortal sect leaders, after managing the Tao Immortal sect for 10 to 20,000 years, would disappear without a trace, precisely through the Ascension platform to the fabled Spirit Realm. Of course, such a claim had no basis and probably only the Immortal sect leader of the Tao Immortal sect knew the truth. Perhaps the refinement void ghost king of the Ghost Palace of Netherworld, the lord of the Blood Demon Sea, and the Demon Saint of the Demon Saint's Nest also knew something. It's irrelevant. With just another 200 years to cultivate to the peak of the 6th rank, or even break through to the 7th rank, no secrets would be secrets before me. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Now, he needed not pry into the secrets of the Spirit Realm or Ascension. There was no significance in doing so. It was better to focus all his time on cultivation. First to become invincible under the heavens, then see.
Tao Immortal sect. Sect Master Mu Qinglu sat aloft.
Mu Mengting knelt below, his face pale and his expression filled with fear. He had never thought that after using the treasured symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage from the Mu family's collection, he still failed to kill Jun Dongjin. Not only had he failed to kill him, but the sect master noticed it immediately. Now, having expended an extremely precious symbol talisman of the ethereal refinement stage and Jun Dongjin not being dead meant that he, Mu Mengting, was not the sole candidate for the succession of the immortal sect. Mu Qinglu had other options, such as reusing Jun Dongjin. If that were the case, it would mean that Mu Mengting was completely out of favor with the sect master. Do you know where you went wrong? Mu Qinglu looked at Mu Mengting, his eyes showing disappointment. He had not expected Mu Mengting to lack such resolution and utterly devoid of tolerance. Sect master, I should not have acted against a fellow sect member. I shouldn't have acted against Jun Dongjin. Mu Mengting immediately admitted his mistake. Since Mu Qinglu had called him aside alone and personally mentioned the matter, Mu Mengting realized that his antics could not have gone undetected. If that was the case, it was better to openly admit his wrongdoing. Perhaps there was still a chance for things to turn around. After all, his relationship with Mu Qinglu was far from being as simple as that of a sect master and a disciple. Incorrect. You erred in that you acted too soon, and too hastily. Mu Qinglu looked at Mu Mengting and spoke indifferently. When he took over as the leader of the immortal sect, he too had used some tactics, so Mu Mengting's preemptive actions to eliminate competitors were not uncommon. It was what Mu Qinglu had left over from his own strategies. However, such actions required restraint. With Jun Dongjin being transferred away from Mount Morality Immortal and distanced from the epicenter of power, his abilities being decent and his distinction between public and private affairs clear, it was far more useful to let him live than to have him dead. Ah? Mu Mengting looked baffled. He originally thought that the sect master would chastise his actions, but instead, it seemed that the sect master thought he had been too hasty. When you reach the refining void period, you will realize how laughable those former struggles were. Be it Jun Dongjin or anyone else, they are all pawns in your hands. Killing them is like weakening your own power, Mu Qinglu said calmly. This was also his greatest realization after stepping into the refining void period. From the perspective of an ancient saint, how ridiculous were some past actions. Having absolute power rendered everything subordinate. Mu Mengting's eyes widened. When Mu Qinglu mentioned, when you reach the refining void period, Mu Mengting trembled. What did the sect master mean? What was this about stepping into the refining void period? The order to transfer Dongjin to Vast Cliff Mountain. Could you not discern that I had already chosen you as the next sect master? Mu Qinglu said blandly. Sect master. Mu Qinglu was extremely agitated in his mind. Indeed, when Jun Dongjin received the transfer order, he had indeed thought that Jun Dongjin had been eliminated from the list of candidates for sect master. But Mu Mengting could only speculate, never sure whether his thoughts were true or false. What if Jun Dongjin was only being sent away for a while and came back soon? Thus, for the sake of certainty, Mu Mengting decided to take a risky move. From his high seat, Mu Qinglu looked at Mu Mengting, whose emotions were overflowing, and sighed internally again. Mu Mengting really was not as... Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.